This week on Instant Experts, all the latest on Iran as Australia enters the fray.
What do you mean the fray? I thought you said it was a fracas or an imbroglio.
What's an imbroglio, Honky?
Is it a war involving Natalie Imbruglia or Natalie Imbruglia's brother?
For the love of God, Honk. I'm torn even acknowledging that pun. Our emotional tribute to Kristi Noem.
Former head of the Department of Homeland Security and good friend of the show.
Unless, of course, you're a dog, Honk, in which case she'll shoot you.
Or an immigrant, in which case she'll also shoot you.
Or an American, for that matter, in which case she'll shoot you. Just ask Alex Preddy and Rene Good, may they rest in peace.
The Americans got shot more times, though, didn't they? Alex Preddy was shot 10 times and Rene Good was shot thrice.
Yeah, sadly, it's kind of like being a platinum frequent flyer.
It's like locals night.
Yeah, do they do a badge draw, do you reckon?
I think ICE draws the gun before the badge.
Well, indeed. And finally, our West Tigers season preview.
It's the happiest time of the year when we are still undefeated.
Welcome back to Instant Experts. Of course, we have a strategy for Iran edition. It's all the latest news explained by idiots, here to keep you sane in a crazy world. I'm Henry Lee, and here, as always, with my dear friend, the Honk. Honky, welcome.
Henry, my dear fellow, great to be here. Just a pleasure.
Where are you broadcasting from this week? It looks like you've moved again.
Well, last week, as you know, I was on this amazing trip-a-deal visit to Dubai, but then I had to relocate at very short notice.
Was it the drones or the missiles, Honky?
It was neither. It was the new Ayatollah heard me call him a cunt on the show and issued a fatwa.
That was a bold move. Where are you now?
Well, it's better I don't say, but rest assured I am safe and in a secure location.
Can you at least tell our viewers and listeners what your Zoom background is this week?
It's called Downtime in Hormuz. It's actually very, very peaceful. You know, you can see the window behind me. What do you call those Iranian
I think
jellyfish?
they're called portholes on boats, Honky, not windows.
Yeah,
I think it's a porthole.
Oh, no, well, of course. What do you call, at the porthole, what do you call those Iranian jellyfish, you know, that are green and metal and round with the spikes? They're so beautiful. They're everywhere here. They're all the way around the boat. Like you could almost reach out and touch them. It's just amazing. Anyway, what a week. This is a show, as we always say, about crooks, fuckwits and morons. I'm really trying to relax out here, but they just keep coming at us.
And what caught your eye this week, Honky?
Well, this guy with a knife nearly did about a minute ago. But the other thing is that Kyle and Jackie O may have unretired. They are reportedly talking again. So we were a bit premature on reporting their demise last week.
Our bitter rivals, does their 10-year, $200 million contract have something to do with the thawing of relations, Honky?
I think they just have a great love for each other and a great love for breakfast radio as an art form.
And a great love for $200 million.
But without wanting to repeat last week's show, the big story really does remain Iran.
Yes, and there is still so much to explore.
It sounds like a tourism slogan, doesn't it? Iran. So much to explore.
I think it was a tourism slogan, actually. I think Qantas used it for Western Australia at one point.
What are some of the other ones the Iranian regime could go with? What could they do?
You'll love every piece of Iran, the old Victorian one.
Yes, although unfortunately, you'll now have to find all the pieces yourself. They are scattered far and wide.
You'll never know if you never go. The old Northern Territory one from 80s or maybe 90s.
The US has certainly taken that one to heart. There's now talk they might send in ground forces to secure the nuclear stockpile.
Good luck, lads. And there's probably my favourite one, actually, the old campaign for New Zealand. Stay where you are, I'm coming over.
Well, that one is definitely already taken. Iran, don't they use that for Israel?
Probably. They do pop around fairly often, don't they?
The Ayatollah comes over all the time. His kids too, Hamas, Hezbollah, they come over for a beer and a terrorist attack.
Well, to be fair, it's not one-way traffic, is it?
Of course not. Israel popped around for a visit to Hezbollah just this week, I think, wasn't it?
I think they did.
Hezbollah's got a beautiful place in South Beirut. Recently renovated.
Recently renovated by a cruise missile, I would say.
But the craftsmanship of it, Henry.
Okay, well, Honk, we should probably get down to business and discuss what is happening in Iran.
To quote you two, you mean is it getting better or do you feel the same?
Yes, indeed. Will it make it easier on you, Honky? Now you've got someone to blame.
Well, before we talk about that, I do want to start with an Australian angle on the Iran story.
Yes, I did see Albo's putting our money where his mouth is this week. He sent over a plane and I think even some troops, at least flying troops.
That's right, an early warning aircraft called a Boeing E-7A Wedgetail to the Gulf, along with about 85 people.
Now, you said to me during the week, and I quote, we're sending a snack pack, a T-shirt, and a signed Crocodile Dundee soundtrack. I thought that was a bit harsh.
It's a bit harsh, yeah. We're also providing advanced air-to-air missiles to the UAE. It turns out to help defend against Iranian drone and missile attacks.
And I think credit where it's due. Not everyone agrees, but we think Anthony Albanese is doing a good job here. He's supporting the US as our major alliance partner without getting too deeply involved and keeping it to defence, not offence.
Yeah, although it does turn out there were Aussies on that US submarine that torpedoed the Iranian Navy boat that we talked about last week. That's the one that was on the way back from the Goodwill naval exercises in India.
The US has been blowing up unarmed fishing boats in the Caribbean for months, so the Iranian Navy on the high seas was never going to fly, was it?
It was going to sink, is what it was going to do. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the Iranian women's football team.
Football, hockey, always the sport angle with you, isn't it? Enough of tackling real issues. You're a broken record. Can't stand it.
That's me.
What happened with the Iranian women's football team? That is the soccer team.
Well, they've been in Australia for the past couple of weeks, or had been, competing in the Women's Asian Cup.
Not very successfully. I think they lost all 3 games, didn't score a goal and conceded 8 or 9.
Well, it's a bit hard when you have to play in hijabs and long pants because your government's run by fuckwits who think women are sinful and should cover themselves in public.
That is true.
Plus, don't forget, the regime makes these women have their husband on the field. And he's always getting in the way, mansplaining.
Fatima, I think you'll find they're playing a 4-2-3-1.
The penalty shootouts are incredibly triggering, as they would be for any Iranian citizen.
Well, sometimes there are no survivors, Honk.
Very true. The real story, which we talked about briefly last week, was the women's Iranian football team refusing to sing the Iranian regime's anthem before their matches. It was clearly a pretty big, brave, frankly, middle finger to the Ayatollah. So there were big questions about what would happen to these women when they got home, given the Iranian government has killed tens of thousands of Iranian citizens, including, in fact, 2 women who were, at the time, members of the women's football team for protesting against government repression.
But what repression, Honky? We don't repress our citizens here in Iran, which we're going to demonstrate by killing them. Which Ayatollah were they giving the middle finger to, by the way? So I think we're up to about the 3rd one for the week, aren't we?
Not quite. The successor to the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was blown up last week, his son, whose name is Mojtaba Khamenei, was appointed this week.
I thought he was blown up too, Honky, possibly even in the same bombing as his dad.
But I think Junior is still alive, said to be very seriously injured, maybe even permanently, but alive. But interesting, because no one has seen him since he got the gig. In fact, that should be Iran's new travel slogan. Where the bloody hell are you? But no, we are still not at the 3rd Ayatollah quite yet.
I'm not sure the other candidates are lining up at this point either. A lot of would-be Ayatollahs choosing to spend more time with their families rather than their maker, maybe.
Anyway, there were grave fears these Iranian women footballers would be imprisoned, tortured and or killed on return to Iran.
Right. Sorry, back to the footballers. Normally, when that happens, the athletes seek asylum in the host country.
And that's what happened here. 5 players from the Iranian women's football team sought asylum, which Prime Minister Anthony Albanese granted immediately via his Foreign Minister, Tony Burke. And another couple of players came on board later, but no one told Donald Trump about it.
But why would they, Honk? It's an Australian domestic matter.
Because Trump is Trump and does Trumpy things. He sits around reading random tweets. In this particular case, from an Australian activist called Drew Pavlou. And Pavlou tweeted as follows, quote, "This is absolutely insane. Senior Iranian regime propagandists threatened to have members of the Iranian women's football team killed because they didn't sing the national anthem at a game in Australia this week. The women were then basically held under armed guard in Australia by Iranian officials to prevent them escaping. They were even seen making SOS signals on their team bus. The Australian government inexplicably dragged their feet on saving them right up until the last possible moment. 5 girls just escaped and claimed asylum. The rest face a flight home tomorrow to almost certain persecution. This is the same Australian government which wants to import literal ISIS members from Syrian prison camps. They've spent the past month trying to get ISIS brides back on planes to Australia, but they had to be dragged kicking and screaming to protect 5 women fleeing Islamist persecution." Trump responded first by retweeting that, and then he sent a longer tweet that said, Australia is making a terrible humanitarian mistake by allowing the Iran national women's soccer team to be forced back to Iran, where they will most likely be killed. Don't do it, Mr. Prime Minister. Give, uppercase, asylum. The US will take them if you won't. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Only two problems with all of that. First of all, it's 1:15 on a Tuesday morning and Albo is fast asleep. Second, Tony Burke had been in Brisbane to talk to the Iranian women's team. The visas were already in the process of being granted.
So what happened?
Well, they dragged poor Albo, our Prime Minister, out of bed for a call with Trump at 2:30 in the morning. Albo explained the situation. And then at 2:55, Trump sends another tweet, quote, I just spoke to Prime Minister Anthony Albanese of Australia concerning the Iranian national women's soccer team. He's on it, exclamation mark. 5 have already been taken care of and the rest are on their way. Some, however, feel they must go back because they are worried about the safety of their families. In any event, the Prime Minister is doing a very good job with this rather delicate situation. God bless Australia, President Donald J. Trump.
But there's so many good elements to that story. First, it's obviously good that the women on the team were granted asylum.
Yeah.
Secondly, it shows how Trump spends his time, as he said, basically reading random tweets and watching TV, and also how he exercises power, just sort of picks up the phone, acts quickly, capriciously, facts may or may not be included. Thirdly, it shows how much Australia dances to the US's tune, which I guess makes sense given they are our major defence partner, but it's still cringy when it's so obvious when they're fishing our Prime Minister out of bed at 1 o'clock in the morning to take a phone call with Trump. But fourthly, brilliant work by Albo. He was doing the right thing, but also he was getting ahead like underlings everywhere by letting the boss think that it was his idea. But probably fifthly, and this is the bit that I like the most, Honk, it shows that Americans, no matter what line of work they are in, and God bless our American listeners and viewers, never have any idea or care about time zones. The expected value for any conference call with an American in business or government is 3 o'clock in the morning. Why?
So true. So true.
Worldclock.com. Check it out. You might learn something.
You and I, in fact, have a mutual friend based in Bangkok. That is where the company he works for is internationally headquartered. That is the head office. Right. Friend's boss is based in the US, though, and is forever scheduling urgent calls for 3:30 in the morning. on the same self-involved lines, by the way, I've had like an American colleague wish me happy Thanksgiving. And when I pointed out that we don't celebrate that in Australia, he asked, why don't we celebrate it in Australia?
Did you tell him we only celebrate Black Friday, Honky? It's basically a public holiday now. Now, Honky, we spent basically the whole of last week's episode on Iran, and some of our listeners were campaigning for us, which is quite cute, to bring back our other regular segments on the show. So is there anything else on Iran we need to talk about before we move on?
Do these listeners, by the way, include anyone you might be married to? Just out of interest.
Maybe.
Our take last week on Iran was that the ethics of going in were solid, the wisdom remains to be seen, and that's still the case. The US and Israel have been focused on blowing up Iran's ships, planes, and missile launches.
Yeah, plus the odd school, unfortunately.
Yeah, plus the odd school. And further to our discussion on that last week, it has now largely been confirmed that it was the US itself that blew up the girls' school because it was hit by a Tomahawk missile, which only the US is currently using, which killed, the number is now shockingly around about 188 young girls and counting.
It's terribly sad, isn't it? It should be noted that the school was literally meters away from an Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps military depot. I think it was on the same block right next door.
Yes, except it wasn't even an accident. It turns out it was a direct hit because the US was probably using out-of-date intel, and they thought what they were bombing was itself not a school. Iran, meanwhile, has been firing missiles at countries all over the Middle East. This was a very weird little quirk during the week. The current Iranian president, I don't think he's meant to be shot dead till next week.
The immediate future former president.
Yes, indeed. So he, during the week, very oddly apologised for all the missiles all over the Middle East. And he said the Iranian government was not in control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, but then he assured everyone that it wouldn't happen again. Then, of course, it immediately happened again with Iran resuming bombing all over the Middle East.
Which before last week would have seemed very strange to me, but we established Iran as mostly Persian, not Arab, and Shia Muslim, not Sunni. So there are some key differences there. Although I have to say that listener Sam from Basra got in touch to let us know that there are Arabic Iranians called Awazi Arabs.
Sam from Basra in Iraq, you mean?
He did come to Australia as a boy to escape your friend Saddam Hussein. Sam's actually a brilliant guy, mate of mine. He learned English in the Villawood Detention Centre and became the unofficial translator for all the grown-ups.
Wow.
But very smart guy, has gone on to a very successful career in business. And Basra Honky is on the Shat al Arab River, which we talked about last week, the river that is formed by the merger of the Tigris and the Euphrates. And Sam went on to tell me that his parents often spoke about the Shat al Arab Corniche, a Corniche being a coastal road, and what a melting pot it was back in the day, bustling with international restaurants and nightclubs before Saddam fucked it up for everybody.
I was going to say, sadly, I think it's a melting pot of a different kind these days, more like a molten pot. But
Indeed.
Look, let's hope that Tehran gets back to its glory days as well, not including the Shah's secret police or Savant.
Yeah.
But it is very unclear what's going to happen. I think the US's goal, let's be brave and say it has one, is to disarm Iran and effectively keep it operating within its own borders.
Which would be a good result.
For the US to want somebody else to keep operating in its own borders would be an ironic result too. But regime change would be good too. In fact, I'd say it's essential in Iran. That is not the US, although maybe the US too. But I do think it's becoming clearer and clearer that actual regime change in Iran is going to be no easy thing.
Yes, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Iran either. I think ending nuclear program will be tough too. If anything, their incentive to have nuclear weapons is probably increased, not decreased. As soon as they've got them, the US can't attack them anymore.
Which does bring me to two final Iran stories that I wanted us to quickly cover. The first relates to the price and availability of oil. Obviously, Iran is one of the biggest exporters of oil in the world, and that is all on hold at the moment. So, of course, the price of oil worldwide has shot up.
I've noticed petrol was $1.50 a couple of weeks ago. Now it's $2.20 plus. It's basically up 50% in a couple of weeks.
Now, that is obviously bad for the US as the biggest consumer of oil in the world, about 20 million barrels of oil per day. That's about 20% of global consumption.
Which means gasoline prices are up there as well.
And that's obviously very unpopular and therefore very bad for Trump. And high gas prices will also mean less support for the war. And Trump is staring down the barrel of a very unfriendly set of midterm elections later this year. And the polls are not promising even now.
When you say barrel, no pun intended, I presume. Yeah. So the US needs to find ways to bring gas prices down, and maybe it needs to find another supplier, Honk.
It did find another supplier, which is Russia.
Right.
Russia.
What?
So follow this logic and bear with me. Trump this week lifted oil sanctions on Russia, sanctions that have been in place since Russia invaded Ukraine.
Because oil, petrol and gas are Russia's biggest exports.
Which they use to fund the war in Ukraine.
And also fund Russia buying lots of drones from Iran, which it uses on Ukraine.
It also came out this week that Russia was helping Iran target US and other assets in Iran's attacks.
Russia is helping Iran target the US with drones and missiles.
Funded in part by the US buying Russian oil again. That oil money being used to fund Iran by Russia buying Iranian drones it can use against Ukraine.
So how are the US and the Gulf states defending against the Iranian drone attacks?
They started by using missiles, but they're very expensive. Missiles cost a lot more than the drones, millions versus thousands per unit. Plus, there are a lot fewer missiles.
So the US needed a low-cost option for drone defense, right?
So who do you think they called? Who knows all about that stuff?
Who?
Ukraine.
Wait, so the US is buying oil from Russia, which helps finance Russian-supported Iranian drone warfare against the US and against Ukraine. And now to defend itself against the Russian-supported Iranian drone warfare, the US has called Ukraine, which is being attacked by Iranian drones that Russia bought with US money paid for by Russian oil.
Exactly. You understand it. You understand it better than any of them do. It is insane.
That is nuts.
Yeah, but we do live in nutsy, crazy times.
Well, Nazi/Nazi times. Well, hopefully we can soon get back to normal and talk about stuff like the Epstein files and powerful men who are a part of a worldwide cabal. By the way, I love that joke we saw where someone said torpedoes are the only pedos Trump is prepared to fire.
Superb. Okay, thank God. Finally, time for something a little lighter than the president funding war against himself and raping kids.
And that is my favourite part of the show, our shout-outs to listeners. And as always, we have loyal listeners all over Australia, including our New Merca hotspot, which always comes up as Shepparton. It's still happening.
Maybe we have listeners in both places.
We have listeners certainly all over the world, including regulars in Ashburn, Virginia, just outside DC, and the city of Westminster, both nice and close to the corridors of power.
Well, that's how we roll, Henry, on this show.
We have new listeners this week also in places like Gainesville, Georgia.
There's a Gainesville in Florida too, isn't there?
There is. It's home of the University of Florida and the famous Florida Gators football team. Gainesville, Georgia, though, Honky, is known for being a gateway to Lake Lanier, which, as I know you know, was the rowing venue for the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. It's also a major centre for chicken processing.
Do I want to know what happened to the losing rowing crews?
Well, they were delicious.
By the way, Gainesville, Georgia.
A little meaty,
also...
but
Gainesville, Georgia, also the home of the recently retired WWE great AJ Styles.
Really? Why don't you tell us all about him?
Well,
all right. Shut the fuck up. Honky, the big shout out this week is possibly our biggest.
And we're not saying that. It's not just us. A lot of other people are saying that too.
And this time I believe it. And I'm going to leave this one to you.
Well, Henry, it's like this. A few episodes back, we started to record video as well as audio. We did like a reverse The Jazz Singer. And this week on our YouTube channel.
Search for Instant Experts, folks. It's right there.
Yes, right. So this week on our YouTube channel, we had a comment.
I'm getting excited, Honky.
You should be getting excited. This week on our YouTube channel, we had a comment from a chap named Patrick McIntyre-G9K.
That's a good Irish name, Patrick McIntyre, about as Irish as it gets.
Good Irish robot, Patrick McIntyre-G9K.
Yeah, true. What did he say?
He said, wait for it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it.
He said...
Tell him the price, son. Come on.
He said, "G'day, enjoying your gig from the top end."
The top end, Honky. The Northern
Territory. Darwin! We got Darwin! We finally made it. Oh, well. They like us. They really like us. And it took...
We finally made it to Darwin, Honky. It's taken us 49 episodes, and it took video to do it. Who knew that they were more technologically advanced up there? We were doing radio. They wanted television.
I tell you this, finest city in the world, Darwin, and I have always said so.
You've never said it. You've abused them every single week for a year.
Do you mind? Gateway to Asia, pride of the North. What is the best fish in the world, and why do we all agree it's Northern Territory barramundi?
I'm pretty sure you're pescophobic. I've known you a long time.
These
you're
patriots,
afraid of fish.
These patriots saw off the Japs in the war. Do you mind?
Yeah, it's the gateway to Asia, except when we want to slam it shut.
The Japanese were terrified of them.
Yeah, okay. I think we get the idea, Honky.
You don't understand. People always think the Japanese bombing of Darwin involved kamikazes. That's not right. They were not kamikazes. These Japanese cowards saw one Territorian, passed out in terror, and crashed the plane. That's what happened.
Okay, I get it.
These people are tough as teeth, they are in the Territory, and I have said so for 100 years.
Okay, well, thank you for listening, Patrick McIntyre /GK9. Thank you, Darwin, and thanks to you all. We do really appreciate you tuning in each week.
We do. Thank you very much.
Okay, Honky, with Iran mercifully behind us and Darwin on board, I'm pretty sure this week, time for another of our regular segments, American Carnage, which this week features actual Americans in America.
Yes.
And Honky, it's an emotional one because, as you said at the top of the show, we have to say a tearful goodbye to a dear friend of the show, Kristi Noem.
You are referring to the former US Secretary of Homeland Security who was boned this week.
Yes, although I don't know if she was boned, Honky. She's certainly rumoured to be shagging her advisor, Corey Lewandowski, but that's a private matter between two married people.
Two married people married to other people.
Who have been working, quote unquote, very closely with each other for some years. So much so that Lewandowski became a line manager at the Department of Homeland Security, despite not being employed by the department or in the official chain of command.
Presumably, Kristi thought he'd be good in a hands-on role.
Get on the tools, so to speak.
Maybe him hands-on, sort of her on the tools.
He was the architect, apparently, of, in all seriousness, perhaps the biggest of the many things that got her fired, which is the $220 million advertising campaign featuring her in front of Mount Rushmore on a horse. Have a look.
But for the freedom only America provides, I'm Kristi Noem.
And the company that did the campaign is run by her chief spokesperson's husband. So one assumes there was a kickback there somewhere.
Now, why would you assume that? Just because that company had no prior advertising experience when it got the gig, because it was only incorporated as a company 8 days before it got the gig? Grow up, would you? But is that why she was actually fired?
You'd like to think it was actually the violent, incompetent ICE, which we've talked about extensively on the show, including up the top in relation to Alex Preddy and Renee Good. But it started earlier than that. That disgusting photo of her in the prison in El Salvador in front of all the prisoners, many of them citizens unlawfully deported, cramped in like sardines. And then it finished with the 2 fatal shootings in Minnesota of law-abiding Americans that we alluded to. But the honest answer is probably because when Kristi Noem was in Congress the other day being grilled over the ad campaign by a Republican senator, not a Democrat, a Republican senator called John Kennedy. She said Trump knew about the $220 million and was okay with it.
So she threw Trump under the bus.
She threw Trump under the bus, which Trumpy doesn't like. So she went under the bus too.
Out of interest, did she take her own deportation from office?
Well, she's very fond of the old filler and Botox, Kristi. She bears very little resemblance to the Kristi Noem of 10 years ago. So as someone said online, she kept a stiff upper lip and forehead.
She did get a soft landing though, didn't she, in the time-honoured traditional style?
She did. Like in Australia, they always make the guy or woman they just knifed for the leadership of Party A or Party B or the prime ministership, the ambassador to somewhere safe and nice, usually the US or UK, sometimes Paris for a bit of variation. So names like Andrew Peacock, Tony Abbott, Alexander Downer, Kim Beazley, Kevin Rudd, Joe Hockey, the list goes on. So what did Kristi get, Honky?
She got, quote, special envoy to the, quote, Shields of the Americas, a as yet non-existent security alliance.
Or TV series, possibly. You might as well just call her Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and be done with it.
To be fair, it is a new thing that is supposed to align the US and various countries in South and Central America in combating drug trafficking and organised crime.
Although if I were Kristi Noem, Honky, I wouldn't be straying too far from the hotel when I flew down to meetings in South America. She's made a lot of enemies in that part of the world, Kristi Noem.
Oh, I don't know. I imagine she and Corey Lewandowski would be quite popular in a Venezuelan prison.
Corey, certainly. Her, possibly only if Diego, the Venezuelan gang parrot, has a particularly busy night. Still, thank God she's gone and we can bring the temperature down on the whole immigration issue in the US.
I assume you've seen who Trump has announced to replace him.
The guy with 2 first names, Mark Wayne Mullins.
He's a Republican senator from Oklahoma.
He was the guy that tweeted a few months back he was proud to be staying late with Trump on a Friday night. Remember this? And had a picture of them signing what looked like important documents. But when you zoomed in, it was Trump signing pictures of himself to give to Mark Wayne Mullins.
So this Republican senator from Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullins, who Trump has announced to replace Kristi Noem, and the whole idea is to bring down the temperature and the political tensions in the immigration issue. Mark Wayne Mullins, a Republican senator from Oklahoma, is an ex-MMA fighter.
And I did not know that.
If you want to know what he's like, here is video of him threatening to beat a guy up during a Senate hearing in session until the Clint Eastwood, the Chuck Norris of the Senate, Bernie Sanders, who is a 3,000-year-old, tiny little old Jewish guy, looks like Yoda from Vermont, had to step in. Have a look, listen to this.
Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be 2 consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your
All right.
solution every
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough of contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and bullies.
You have,
And that's
you
what-
have,
I don't like you because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Okay, maybe Kristi Noem really wasn't that bad.
I liked her even more than I liked Darwin, and I've been saying it for years.
Actually, she really was that bad. Good riddance. All right, Honk, time for quick shots. Take us through it.
Well, Henry, I am worried about the erosion of freedom in this country, Australia. Every time you turn around, some Australian government has introduced some new restriction on freedom of speech and expression.
Are you talking about those new laws in Queensland that post the Bondi terrorist attack of banned pro-Palestinian protesters using phrases like "from the river to the sea" or "globalised the intifada"? Because I thought you'd be in favour of those.
I'm talking about something far, far worse for Australian liberty. The federal government in Australia has just introduced mandatory age restrictions for accessing hardcore porn online.
That seems reasonable. I mean, you're overage. You can still get your weekly fix, daily fix.
It is an outrage. Luckily, someone luckily, someone
spot check.
In answer to your question, sir, have some respect for a serious issue. It is a moral outrage. Luckily, someone is standing up for freedom in this country.
Who, the Council for Civil Liberties or Amnesty International?
Better than that. Pornhub is standing up for civil liberties. Pornhub is hitting the government where it hurts.
Where it's hard, at least. What is Pornhub doing to fight this outrage?
Pornhub is banning all Australians from accessing Pornhub.
All Australians, not just under 18s.
Yeah.
So men over 50, for example.
Theoretically.
Yeah. Well, won't the kids just get a VPN?
Okay. They are banning no Australians from accessing Pornhub. But seriously, though, I do think it is a good thing keeping under 18s off hardcore porn sites.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't want to encourage unhealthy attitudes about sex among young boys and degradation of women and so forth.
Well, that's not really my thing. My thing is it's going to get boys reading again.
They're going to stop jerking off to porn and start reading great literature. Is that the idea? George Orwell, Jane Austen?
No. They're going to start reading the real classics. I'm talking Grandpa's porn mag stashed in the shed. You know, Playboy, Penthouse Hustler, Electric Blue 48, Asian Beaver.
I only ever read them for the articles, Honky. Like you. But you are taking me back. There's so many masterworks of the written word, weren't they? Leg Show, Jugs, Readers' Wives.
Oh, so many big ones. Milkmaids, Titbits was a good one.
Blacktail, Tiger's Wood.
In Her Majesty's Secret Cervix.
Okay, Honky, I'm persuaded.
Oh, to be under 18 once more. Albo scores again.
Yeah, I think that was a movie, though, not a magazine. Might have been a sequel to the original Albo Scores.
I think it was, actually. I think it was a sequel to a coming-of-age story where a young Joy Division fan turns up to a gig and only to find this Joy Division is a cover band of naked sorority girls and their mums.
Okay.
What's another point?
All right, Honky. Time for sport at last. And regrettably, we don't have time to cover the big story, which was Italy beating the USA at baseball.
What? That's like the US beating in Italy at soccer or organised crime.
It really happened, Honky, at the World Baseball Classic this week. Luckily for the US, though, Italy also flogged Mexico, so the US still goes through to the quarterfinals.
Of the baseball or the organised crime? Because I reckon Mexico would have a good shot there too, wouldn't they?
They would. They would, although the US would win it easily if they had their best players.
Aren't the MLB guys playing in this thing?
Yeah, the top baseball guys are playing. I was talking about the Trumps in the organised crime.
Right, I got you now. Yeah. Imagine having Don Trump, Donald Jr. and Eric Trump on the same team. The only problem is that with Don Jr., there'd be no more white lines between the bases.
Indeed. But, Honk, the story we do need to do is the start of the West Tigers season. We flagged it at the top of the show. As regular listeners know, they are the Honks and my team in the National Rugby League, one of Australia's, believe it or not, 4 professional competitions in 4 different codes of football.
Rugby for the right-wing snobs, soccer for the left-wing snobs, AFL for the teal snobs, and rugby league for the people. Did I get that pretty close?
Alarmingly. And the Tigers are traditionally shithouse and therefore represent shithouse football teams in all codes worldwide.
We previously compared them with the Cleveland Browns, the Bad News Bears, even Tottenham Hotspur, right?
Yes, although Tottenham Hotspur is so bad this year, they might get relegated.
Shouldn't have sacked Big Ange, mate.
They shouldn't. Ange Postecoglou was the Aussie coach they sacked last year right after winning a trophy. And Tottenham actually is so bad now that a local grassroots club in London called Walthamstow FC, which is only a couple of miles from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, this week tweeted a real road sign that said Tottenham 3, Walthamstow 1. And then it said, we've been made aware of a distressing image suggesting Tottenham have beaten us 3-1. This has clearly been photoshopped. Even we beat Spurs.
That's hilarious. By the way, if you want to know how big a sports fan I am, I have been to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to see Depeche Mode.
Did they beat Spurs?
I think they did. 2-1 in overtime.
They just couldn't get enough.
But you're saying the West Tigers are going to be better than Spurs. Is that what you're saying?
Honestly, Honk, I don't even know the game was on Saturday. I have no idea. We did beat four-time premiers Penrith Panthers in the preseason, which was exciting. But as somebody said to me the other day when I mentioned that, they said, March premiers, April fools. So I'm just enjoying the last hours of being undefeated before 6 months of misery begins.
Well, I will be there on Saturday with your godson, and I will be keeping the faith. I will stay for at least 68 minutes pending the scoreline.
Yes, well, I expect a full report on at least 80% of the game. Okay, folks, we're near the end of the show, but we've heard the listener feedback, and in a changing world, it's important to maintain some traditions, ones that remind us of a more respectful time, classier, more tasteful. And we speak, of course, of Cunt of the Week. Honky?
Not so fast there, young Henry, because I got a listener email during the week from a woman of a certain age who may or may not have given birth to me, saying that she thinks this segment should be called Prick of the Week instead, or at least it should alternate for reasons of equality.
I feel there is a figurative as well as a literal difference between being a prick and being a cunt, Honky, but for want of a metaphor, I can't put my finger on it. And your mother, whom I know well, Grand Dame Honk, is a feminist icon, so happy to throw her a bone, so to speak.
Thank you for that. Okay, then, let's get into it. Prick of the Week, or for true equality, Genital of the Week of your choice, no judgment. So, no, I've got it now. Cunt of the Week of either gender. Music, please.
I'm a cunt.
Okay, Henry, a veritable smorgasbord, a contaminated Hormuz Strait cruise ship buffet of cunts, if you will, this week. We will rip through them. First, you got your good old corporate cunts. Now, you mentioned oil restrictions making petrol prices jump 50% from like $1.50 to $2.20. Airlines, of course, have been hit too. They use a lot of fuel.
Yep.
Middle Eastern airlines are barely flying, as we know, of course. So thank God for the Asian airlines like Singapore and Cathay, who are trying not to hit customers desperate to get home too hard. So an economy airfare to and from Europe is normally about 2,000 Australian dollars. These well-meaning Asian airlines are currently only charging desperate people around $12,000. I have a friend stuck in Dubai. She has just moved there in the last month. She lives next to a US Army base. So they're being hit by drones all the time. For her and her 3 children to get back to Australia in economy, $45,000, which they do not have.
That's a shocker. But Honky, it wouldn't be Cunt of the Week without some immigration official cunts. And after a year in jail in upstate New York, US Border Patrol released a Myanmar refugee called Nurul Amin Shah Alam. This bloke spoke no English and was legally blind. Without notifying his family, they dropped him outside a closed cafe at night in a snowstorm. And he was found 10 kilometres away, frozen to death. Can you believe it?
Even by the standards of ICE. Kristi Noem must be so proud. Meanwhile...
What a legacy.
What a legacy. Relatedly, the Texas Republican Railroad Commissioner primary candidate, Beau French, is our cunt politician of the week.
Wait a second. They've got a primary for Texas Railroad Commissioner.
They got a primary for everything. So Beau French, who is in the hotly contested, he's trying to steal that hotly contested Railroad Commissioner primary for the Republicans in Texas. And how's he done it? He has proposed in his campaign deporting not only illegal immigrants, but also Native Americans.
Well, so he should send them back to America, Honky. Send them right back where they belong. There's also Manosphere cunts. So this is a hotly contested trophy. There are iconic previous winners like the neo-Nazi incel psycho Nick Fuentes. But it's been stolen this week by the phony tough guy, Andrew Tate, who was famously extracted by Trump with his brother from Romania so he didn't have to face rape and sex trafficking charges. Tate has gone to Dubai after Iran started bombing, saying all influencers fleeing Dubai are, quote, pussies. He was immediately arrested by Emirati officials, then desperately fled Dubai for Oman via bribery.
What a hero.
What a man. Now, dumb cunt of the week, and how he's never won this before is amazing, is Eric Trump, the president's dumbest son in a Melbourne Cup-like field, who said this week that the new Iranian Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei was a, quote, loser who only got the job because of his dad. Eric, to quote myself, quoting my sister, have you met you? Stupid cunt.
Also, it's so unfair to Mojtaba, Henry, because he's earned his stripes as a cunt. You know, it's not just because he's the late Ayatollah's son. This guy actually achieved something. He oversaw the Islamic regime security force, the Basij, which is 600,000 troops strong, who have been responsible for about 15 years for murdering and torturing thousands of Iranian citizens protesting the regime. Could Eric Trump do that? Actually, maybe yes.
Maybe yes. But you're saying he was appointed on merit as well.
Appointed on merit. But it does bring us to our overall cunt of the week. Now, we have said before, just to recap, that in Australia, you've basically got two main types of cunts, right? You've got good cunts and shit cunts.
Indeed, yes. Then you got cunts who are great fun to hang out with, which are the sick cunts.
But then there's another, not that often honoured, and there should be, type of cunt. That is the funny cunt. And at a dark time in the world, it's one of those funny cunts we honour this week. This is a photo of a man named Carl Benitez of Florida. Let's take a look. Now, he has been charged with multiple offences for attempting to trade his mother-in-law to Iran as part of a hostage exchange program he made up.
You're making this up. That's not true.
Swear to God, true. Here's what he did. He contacted this guy, what he believed was an Iranian diplomatic channel via a WhatsApp number he found on a conspiracy forum. This is all true. All true. I've looked into it. It's not a joke. And this guy offered to exchange his mother-in-law for, quote, 2 American hostages and a gas price reduction negotiable. It gets better. He then drafted
reduction of the global gas price?
I'll come to that. No, it's not that clever. He then drafted a 3-page proposal that he titled, quote, unofficial hostage exchange offer - serious inquiries only. And he sent it to 4 separate numbers, only one of which responded, which turned out to be a
Did he send it to Four Seasons Total Landscaping by any chance?
Sent it to 4 different numbers, only one of which responded, which turned out to be a marketing account for a Tehran-based carpet dealership. All true.
Four Seasons Carpets in Tyrant.
Tyrant.
Of course.
The proposal
Four Seasons
included
Total Carpets.
The proposal included the following terms. Quote, 1, then in brackets, the number 1, close brackets, mother-in-law, described as, quote, experienced in conflict, very durable, speaks her mind. Plus, in answer to your question, a 30-day freeze on gas prices at or below $3.10 US per gallon at the Kissimmee, Florida summit. Then he added a clause stipulating, quote, she comes back, the mother-in-law, after 6 months if she wants, but that part is her choice. When the cops obviously then traced it all to this guy, Carl Benitez. When they did, he claimed he was acting as, quote, an independent diplomatic contractor, and he asked if there was a finder's fee for successful hostage exchanges. This is all true.
This is one of your most unlikely stories ever.
It is true. The Tehran carpet dealership declined to comment except for a promotional offer. I'm not making this up. For a hand-knotted 8-by-10-foot carpet. That is for real. Then his mother-in-law was reached for comment by reporters, and she had heard about the offer, and she said, quote, typical.
Oh, that's absolute genius, Honky, and a worthy cut of the week. Probably in the stupid cunt category, I would have thought. Okay, folks, that's all we have time for. Thanks for your company, which we really appreciate, especially a great Irish robot in Darwin. Please tell all your Darwin robot friends, Patrick McIntyre -GK9. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Everyone, you can watch us on YouTube if you're not already. A link's in the show notes, or search on YouTube. Drop us a like and or a comment. We'd love to hear from you. As Patrick got in touch, we'll read your comments on the show. On Spotify, you've got a choice of audio or video. If you want to see more of our beautiful faces, or if you're worried you're going to crash the car, switch to audio. We're on everywhere you get your podcast, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. And remember to share us with your friends. It really helps.
Yes, WhatsApp groups and so forth, and rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It all really helps, as Henry says. Also, check out our show notes for our rundown of what's in the show. As we always say, from those show notes, you can send us a text. We'll read it on the show. You can send us a voicemail direct from the show notes. We'll play it on the show. And do also, as we always ask, read our show notes for even dumber jokes that one of the two of us insists on writing. No names, except he's not called the Honk, and he is called Henry Lee.
Of course, we'll be back again next week for our 50th episode, Honk.
Whoa.
Milestone for us on Saturday at some stage, Australian Eastern Standard Time, as early in the day as possible.
Yeah, now, as listeners and viewers know, we like to usually finish the show with some video/audio of particular crookery, fuckwitticism, or moronification-osity, nessiosity. But this week, Henry, a bit different.
Well, we wanted to send off the great Kristi Noem, friend of the show, with due respect. And we're going to start with the full majesty of the US $220 million ad campaign starring her. And no doubt some illegal immigrants forced at gunpoint to play the Buffaloes. Or maybe some Native Americans rounded up by that chap from the Railway Commission in Texas.
They were already in El Salvador, I think. And then from the Saturday Night Live news desks, Colin Jost and Michael Che, a few of their truly finest lines the other night about the incoming special envoy to the Shield of the Americas.
It's still Kristi, right? Kristi Noem?
That's still Kristi Noem. Thanks again for your company. We'll be back next Saturday with a new episode in video and audio because, as the great Henry Lee always says...
Do you think theoretically that mother-in-law Iran thing could work here? Asking for a friend. Oh! And stupid never sleeps.
Why do I love these wide open spaces? They remind me of why our forefathers came here. Not just for its beauty, but for the freedom only America provides. I'm Kristi Noem. From the cowboys who tamed the West, to the titans who built our cities, to the dreamers who chased the impossible, America has always rewarded vision and grit. Our greatness calls people to us for a chance to prosper, to live how they choose, to become part of something special. Anyone who searches for freedom can always find a home here, but that freedom's a precious thing, and we defend it vigorously. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you. Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American citizens, there will be consequences. But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies. From President Trump and me, welcome home.
Well, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has been fired. Wait, what? Why? I mean, name 1 to 20 things she did wrong. Was it calling the innocent guy they shot a domestic terrorist? Was it spending $220 million of taxpayer money on an ad campaign where she dressed up like Jessie from Toy Story? She's so happy riding the horse in this. I bet his name is Corey Lewandowski. You know, on some level, I feel bad for Kristi Noem. Imagine being singled out as the worst member of Trump's cabinet. That's like someone coming up to you at a party and saying, "We think you should leave. You're making Diddy uncomfortable."
President Trump said he will reassign Kristi Noem to be Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, which is a brand new department located on a farm upstate.